It's been a whole year. Wait, it's been a year? The cruel march of time never stops. Putting aside the fact that our inevitable demise is always marching closer to us, it is time to start our journey into Chapter 10 and watch the inevitable demises of my operators, as I watch them get blown up by the Londinium cannon over and over and over and over and over again, while I struggle on my path to victory. I've been dreading this chapter specifically since I am forced to do the unthinkable, which is engage with the mechanics. A nightmare that is truly horrifying to most players, as we saw with how the Hortus event was received. While I have a full squad with healers this time around, it feels inconsequential since 80% of my team can't tank the cannon anyways, and is a bit ill-suited for taking down the slugs quickly due to their damage reduction, which usually results in my entire team blowing up. And to top it all off, because I hate myself and want to suffer, all stages will be done in the challenge mode forms. Well, that's enough for the intro. It is time to enter Chapter 10 and start what was a nightmare of a journey. 10-2 starts our journey, and luckily the beginning stages of story chapters are pretty easy, and I opened the stage by placing Bagpipe, and I am already not having a good time. In my next attempt, I replaced my Bagpipe with a Boy Cat, just to see that another dog is making its way down the opposite lane. The first stage, and I've already failed twice. Luckily, chat reminds me that Siege exists. Siege is used to block the dogs and allows Bagpipe to do all the work. I get jump scared by the bottom lane spawning snipers, but luckily Horn can deal with all of them. Until I forget to block the other lane and she gets distracted by enemies, letting a sniper leak through. On the next attempt, I remember to actually place a unit on the other lane, allowing Horn to focus on the snipers on the bottom. And from there, we reach a clean clear. 10-3 is a simple enough stage with 2 easy choke points. This stage introduces the second most annoying mechanic of the chapter, that of the block count increasing, damage reducing, and second life having slugs. These things are a pain since they are so hard to kill quickly without high power burst skills or without a Logos telling them to perish. In this stage they pose no threat as the 2 lanes allow for Chen and Horn to clean them all up. 10-4 is where the headaches begin. This stage introduces the fanfare mechanic of having your units roleplay like they're playing Modern Warfare 2. The cannon is a fun mechanic as it forces you to pay attention, which is something I do not do as I immediately leak due to failing to notice how fast the enemies start on this stage. On my second attempt, I place a Horn and a Siege to buy time so I can take down the enemies with the cannon. This works out, but Horn is unable to take down the next wave, and I'm forced to retreat and place a Chen to clean up the enemies with her skill. The stage descends into chaos as a slug gets past my Bagpipe on the top lane, and both Chen and the Boy Cat have been Ligma'd, so neither can use their skills to take out the enemies quicker. I sense impending doom as the cannon gets ever closer to blowing up my entire team. I make a gamble that the cannon will do the hard work for me, and I lose it by a millisecond. On the next attempt, I place Chen first to take down the initial wave of enemies, and then use a Siege to tank the cannon. Yet, I somehow still troll and need to retreat Chen and replace her with a Boy Cat and a Horn. Bagpipe on the top lane gets replaced with Monster to solo hold. With this setup, it's smooth sailings to the victory screen. I beat 10-5 first try. 10-6 is the superior rock farming stage. This stage starts cringe, and it never stops. Due to skill issue, I need to keep replacing my units that blow up until the very end when there is no longer anyone to cycle. But my backline falls and I lose the stage. On my next attempt, I open the stage up with and there she goes. I replace her with Monster and place a Chen to assist Monster in taking down the slugs, but we immediately leak. On my next attempt, the setup is the same, but now with a very alive Bagpipe holding the stairs on the bottom. The stage goes pretty smoothly until my entire team almost gets blown up by the cannon, but we are saved by a Chen S2. After that great save, we clear the stage without problem. 10-7. What can I say about 10-7? Besides that it was the bane of my existence. This was a battle for my sanity that lasted an hour as I bashed my head in, watching my units get blown up time after time after time again. This stage is evil. It opens with 4 of the fast gauge abusers powering the cannon, meaning that your first unit will always be blown up. Then there's a flood of slugs on the right side, ensuring that your block count is always high, making baiting the cannon much more headache inducing. All of this while there are Ligma cards that make sure all your units will be Ligma'd at one point or another. And that is pretty much it for the stage. A constant flow of slugs, fast gauge spammers, and Ligma, making this stage kinda cringe. My basic setup was this: Horn and Chen in the back line. Horn just kinda sits there and tanks while Chen assists with her S2 to take down enemies. Boy Cat goes in front of Chen for when she inevitably blows up due to my bad cannon management, and Monster is used as a pseudo fast redeployed bait. This stage truly was a battle of attrition. I just kept throwing body after body at the problem, trying to mitigate the cannon. This would always lead to problems elsewhere, as my left side would always be overrun. That, or I would miss the timing on baiting the cannon and watch as my entire team explodes. And sometimes I just get trolled by monster placement shenanigans. Then, finally, after an hour of straight defeats, my time came. I opened the stage with Siege to take the cannon, and then Bagpipe to get as much DP as she can. The usual backline is set up with Horn on the right, Boycat and Chen on the left. Monster is used to bait the cannon by blocking the 3 slugs that spawn from the red box. Harmony is then placed facing up to help by slowing and doing damage to enemies. Around the 25 enemy mark is when the stage starts getting flooded, so I place a monster to bait the cannon and taking Horn's first life away from her. By some miracle, Horn is actually able to get her second skill of the stage, and I place Amiga to help deal some extra bit of damage. But this backfires, as I start dealing too much damage. That Horn no longer has aggro for the cannon and it switches to my left side, where I have almost all of my units. I spent some time thinking about a way to get out of this losing situation. I decided to sacrifice my entire left side since I had a Bagpipe that could come in to block the rest, but in my carelessness, I forgot to activate her skills, so a slug slips by right at the end when I was so close to winning. So I sat in despair at the notion that I once again failed right at the end. So I unpause, ready to accept my fate. But Amiga from downtown takes down the slug with only a few seconds of her skill left. Truly our CEO. Everything is going according to how I totally planned it. I cleaned up the last 2 Ligma cars and I finally cleared the stage, freeing me from this hell, just to realize I still have 7 stages to go. Shit, 10-8 is a simple stage that I fail immediately because my brain does not work. This stage introduces one of the most annoying enemies, the Ligma Chaincasters. In the next attempt, I just set up monster on the far right to tank the Ligma Casters, and Chen and Harmony hold down the left side. I figured that 10-9 would have been a much harder stage, but it surprisingly went super smooth. Chen and Boycat on the left to hold the entire lane, and Cal and Monster, like in the last stage, hold the lane of Ligma Caster by themselves. The lack of cannon also makes the stage much easier. 10-10 is another easy stage, as it is a simple choke point stage with no cannon. A cluster of Bagpipe, Chen, and Boycat are set up at the blue box, while Horn is sat to tank the new enemies of the stage, being these little bloodsuckers. The end of the stage gets a little hectic, but with an extra monster deploy and a Nightingale cage to bait, we are able to ride smoothly to the end. After getting a bit of break with easy stages, Chapter 10 decides that it wants to throw another very cringe stage at me. 10-11 is filled with dangerous enemies and a cannon that makes everything much more of a headache. It has Ligma casters, and it also introduces a new enemy in the big chunguses of the chapter that hit way too hard. My first attempt goes poorly, as I hope for Horn to do enough damage on the top side, but it does not pan out that way, and then the cannon blows up almost my entire team. On my next attempt, I tried to do some funny Heidi tech by playing around the block count, but all it led to was me trolling myself since Heidi was also giving +1 block to Stainless, and it didn't even matter since Chen was blocking 5. Then my team blew up again, and then for good measure, they blew up again one more time. I finally decided to use my brain and just let Monster hold the top side, and then make a choke point on the bottom with Chen, Boycat, and Horn. Things get spicy as Chen is blocking too much, making me retreat her so the cannon redirects back to Monster. Indra is used to replace her and she holds the front line. During the last wave with the 2 big chunguses, I activate Amiga skill to take them down, and Chen is deployed topside to help clean up the stage. 10-12 is an awkward stage, as there is no easy place to put my bait, as the middle choke point doesn't allow for Cal or other medics to be out of range. I open by sacrificing Cal to the cannon gods, and then try a meat grinder tactic by placing Chen and Stainless to hold the slugs until the cannon booms. This goes horribly as expected, with Horn leaking slugs. On my next attempt, I place Monster on the far right lane to hold, and leave the rest of the enemies to Chen and Boycat to take down. Chen is unable to take down the next big wave of slugs, so I'm forced to retreat her, and making Bagpipe become the sacrifice to the cannon gods. Boycat is unable to take down the slugs for obvious reasons, so he becomes the next in line to take down the enemy via cannon sacrifice. This was enough stalling to get Chen back to block the last few enemies. The rest of the stage goes smoothly. 10-14 is a simple stage with only 2 lanes. This stage introduces the flying slugs that charge the cannon, but aren't too much of a problem as they deplete their own life, so they take care of themselves. Wait, why did it leak? Well then, on my next attempt, I placed enough bait that the drone that leaked last time is barely able to perish right before the blue box. The rest of the stage goes pretty smooth. Well then, on my next attempt, I prepare a Heidi beforehand so that her skill is ready for when the cannon is about to blow. Activating the Heidi tech lets the block go to 0, allowing her monster to take the hit. Heidi is quickly retreated so we don't link the enemies, and after that, the stage is smooth sailing. 10-15 is a bit of a difficult stage due to the endless waves of slugs, coupled with the Ligma cards not allowing my operators to get their skills to quickly take them down. My first attempt goes pretty poorly as my front line is overrun by the endless slugs and the cannon threatening to blow everyone up, but don't worry, they were blown up on the next attempt. I set up again the same back line and I'm able to better manage the cannon by letting normal enemies not perish so that they won't drop slugs. We have a few close calls as always, but we are able to get through without my team blowing up. Horn cleans up the last enemy. 10-16 is a bit of a nasty stage. I open the stage with, what the hell? I have half HP Ligma? Now that seems a bit unfair. Bagpipe and Boycat are used to block the initial enemies, and then are replaced by Chen and Horn. However, I make a blunder by placing Monster as bait, and in doing so, it allows the Chaincaster to take down Chen, and after that, my team quickly falls apart. On my next attempt, I open up Bagpipe and Monster to hold both lanes. I place Horn at the bottom, and then I have to retreat Monster to reset the targeting of the cannon. I bait the Ligma caster with a cage, and let Horn and Monster do most of the work. I place an Amiga to help out with Chen, since she is literally fighting for her life, but besides that, the rest of the stage goes rather smoothly. 10-17. We have finally reached the boss stage. This is just like 10-7, but 5 times worse, as I repeatedly bash my head against the wall for almost 2 hours to beat the stage. This stage's difficulty increases due to the fact that not a single one of my units can tank the Fred of Man when he targets them. There's also the constant cannon pressure on my team, where with one lapse of judgment, your entire team just kind of blows up. Luckily for me, the stage setup isn't the worst, as it's only 2 lanes and both have very nice choke points to deal with all the enemies. The next big boon is that Freddy himself is a kill gate, so I can stall him out to reposition my units by throwing bodies at him. But that's where the relief ends, since once you phase him, he charges the cannon up like it's nothing, putting more pressure on me during the phase transition and making it much more difficult to not let my entire team explode. And you know what? I find that a little cringe. My setup for this stage for almost the entire time I was trying to beat it goes as follows. Bagpipe, Chen, Horn, and Worf all hold the top side of the stage. Cal and Monster hold the bottom, with extra bodies being thrown in to stall the Man's Fred. Getting to the stalling of Freddy Man is simple enough. Phase 2 is the bane of my existence. The rush of big slugs in the top lane really complicates the start of Phase 2, as the combo Harmony and Chen are not able to take them down quickly enough. This leads to Chen getting a vastly increased block count, leading to my team exploding. About 45 minutes into the run, I start bringing Indra to be another warm body to throw at the Manfred stall, and due to the fact that she is able to self-heal on S2, allowing her to stall for longer, making the wait for cooldowns much more forgiving. My first attempt with her is my best one yet, with MF getting down to a third of his HP, and Indra sacrificing herself to take down the second wave of big slugs. Monster is actually able to take down Manfred on this run by blowing up, but by some sick joke from the developers, there's a third wave of big slugs that spawn right at the end. With no one to block and the cannon only halfway filled, I must watch in sorrow as the last wave of slugs walk with impunity into the blue box. On my next attempt, I get into another good position, with a good amount of units having returned from their cooldown. I also noticed that Horn is able to hold her own for a good amount of time on the left side, making her a good candidate to take down the slugs via double cannon sacrifice. However, it seems her HP was too low and she perishes before the cannon can hit her. Instead, it blows up my Chen and Nightingale, and I again must watch as the slugs walk into the blue box. Another victory lost when it was within sight. But I do see progress. Victory is within reach. I just can't lose heart. On my next attempt, I place Horn early on the left side to tank the cannon, and I get Man even lower on HP before he has even moved past the stairs. But with no units left to deploy, the dudes on the right leak for free. Then my time finally came. I open the stage as I have been. Chen, Indra, Worf, and Horn to hold the first wave of enemies. Cal and Monster are placed on the bottom lane to hold and deal a little bit of damage to Fred. Nightingale is placed and the stall commences. This time I deal too much damage and phase Manfred early. Harmony is set up on the top side to deal some extra bit of damage. However, since we phased him early, I make a terrible blunder. By not noticing how fast the cannon bar has filled, it takes my entire team out on the left side. I place Horn to hold the slugs and throw bodies at Manfred to distract him so he doesn't kill Horn too quickly. It works out and Horn is able to tank one cannon shot, taking down the second wave of slugs. In a nice break, phasing Manfred quickly led to me having many more units ready to be deployed than usual. I set up Nightingale, Amiga, and Chen on the right side in preparation. Disaster strikes on the left side as Horn is not able to hold out and falls, placing the cannon on my right side. The team continues to be in shambles as both Chen and Inter die at the same time, leaving me with no DP and almost no units. By pure planning on my part, however, I have just enough DP to place the Boycat to be the sacrifice that takes down the last wave of slugs, leaving me with the final task of taking down Fred of Man. I throw Monster to bait and buy some time by exploding, allowing Amiga to get her skill. Amiga fights valiantly, doing decent damage to Theresis before being shot to death. Bagpipe is next into the meat grinder, as the cannon gets closer to an explosion. I set Monster up early to get the skill ready and throw the last meat grinder body onto the field. This distraction is just barely enough to allow Monster to take down Manfred, finally freeing me from this almost 2 hours of torture. That is chapter 10 done. This chapter, while many of the stages were fairly simple, had a few big headaches. This is for sure the hardest lore accurate I have done in a while. It did feel nice to do something with some amount of difficulty again, since persisting and winning is always a great feeling. That is that. If you enjoyed it, well, there's a whole bunch of other videos that you can check out, all with a different flavor of me losing my mind. Thanks for watching, and if you made it the whole way through, I appreciate it. Well, till next time.